Hello, welcome in everybody. How we doing today? Happy Tuesday. Did I just say Tuesday? It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? Am I wrong? Welcome everybody. How's it going? We're trying the free music coming with this software. Apparently I can't stream my own music. There might be something I'm missing. So I'll poke around the settings next time, but we're trying some free music. Test it out. If it's too loud, please let me know. It is Wednesday, my dude. So welcome in, everybody. Hi there. I am your host, Half Dork, with the SandStorm Meetup. Check out the SandStorm socials. I know Slater Raid's got them on lock, but if I can find them, I'll share them. But welcome. Today, we are going to be working on more game maker mechanics. And so to ease us in to learning the game maker and learning logic, the things that go behind the scenes, you know, what's going on behind the scenes with your favorite games in the sandbox. And so what a lot of people don't talk about is behaviors and components. So today we're going to be focusing on behaviors. So welcome in everybody, get yourself comfortable. I see we got some friendly faces in the chat. Lord Ken Wolf, howdy, howdy, howdy. Slater Aid, Vox, Vox Machina, Game Dizzy, Garnican, welcome guys. Thanks for popping in. So, if you want to follow along, what we will be exploring today is this particular template. So this template is for behaviors. So we can see just from the thumbnail here that it's got roughly 20 behaviors to look at. So it's going to be a great way to introduce you, a new and budding game maker, into, well, the game maker software. So if it'll join me, you can, you know, play along, start up the same template yourself. If you go to the sandbox.game website, you can find the game maker on the create page, the create tab. I'll go ahead and link that in the chat for you all. But yeah, welcome in everybody. How's it going? Hey, Nervex is here. What's happening, dude? So if you want to install a game maker, maybe you haven't yet. I know a lot of you here are very acclimated to the sandbox lifestyle. But again, if you want to play along, templates section of the game maker, and then you'll tap to page 2, and we're on Behaviours 101. So I went ahead and hopped into a version myself. So can you guys hear the music, is my first question. You know, all last session yesterday, I was playing my music in the background, and I don't think it was going through. But this time, we're using the free music. Yo, Frederick! Frederick, thank you for the raid. I saw you were streaming. Welcome in, Frederick. Thanks for hopping in. Saw you were making a little squirrel. And thank you guys for the music confirmation. So, what we're going to be doing is we are going to go row by row here, and we're going to take a look at each one of these. We'll go ahead and look at all 5, and then we're going to hop back out into edit mode. So right now, what we're looking at is what you would call edit mode, where we can orbit around our kind of environment here. And when we're playing the game, which you can, you know, jump into the game as though you were a player by pressing play button or the tab on your keyboard. By swapping between these two modes, you'll be able to better understand like what you're doing behind the scenes and the direct result of that. So I'm going to first put on screen here my little overlay so you can see what buttons I'm pushing. And so just as a refresher, if you want to go up with the camera, it's space button. C is to go down. And if you hold down shift, you can go faster. WASD is how you can move around. If you do Q, this is what's called panning or tilting. Tilting is going up and down, but this is panning. So left and right is Q and E. And if you hold down Alt, you're able to orbit around whatever you have selected, or wherever you click. And if you're holding down Alt, you can kind of change your camera angle by right-clicking and moving the mouse. So think of it like you're pivoting from where your camera is by holding the right button and any Alt key, or you can pivot around wherever your mouse cursor is by holding the left mouse button and the Alt key. So these are the things you kind of get used to over spending countless hours in the Game Maker. So yeah, just keep them in mind. No need to take notes. Hey, welcome in, friends. I see Roxy's here, stepping high. How's it going? Buenos maestro. Oh, buenos tardes. How's it going, Roxy? And thank you, Frederick. Appreciate the raid, dude. So, let's go ahead and hop into the Game Maker. So I hit Tab to swap from the editor to play mode. So we'll take a look here at this first row. So we can see we have replace asset. And we'll go ahead and read each one of these and just kind of give you a brief understanding as to what these behaviors can do in your game. So replace asset, I might have guessed, allows you to replace an asset with another one. So behind the scenes, we'll take a look at what this number pad does. Enhance. And it's telling us to interact with this said number pad in order to send out that message, which then triggers our replacement. And so for this particular example, this tree turns into a car. And so this is a one-way transformation. So you can see I'm interacting with the object again, but we could maybe set things up to where we make something from, we could delete it and spawn a new one. But this is me going on a tangent. But regardless, this could be useful in like creating a transformation of sorts. Like you could even easily turn like a tree into a burned tree, as an example. You could turn like a bush into a pile of sticks, a building into rock. So those are just some brief examples of what you could do with a replace asset. This one here is our plants. So a plant behavior is specifically, it doesn't really have a like a specific purpose. I'll just rephrase this. The plant behavior is not limited to plants. I use it a lot of times to destroy an asset or an object from a message. So let's just take a look at what they are saying about plant behaviors. It allows assets to be removed upon receiving a message. So the number pad, this asset here, when we interact with it, it will trigger this behavior to be destroyed. And so these plants, which they use grass in this example, are going to be removed upon receiving a message. So think of it kind of like a squirrel is going around eating nuts off the ground. Or perhaps like you have a lawnmower in your hands, and so you're bringing it to the grass, and as you touch the grass, perhaps it destroys the grass. But plant behaviors, as we'll see later on, can be used as another way of destroying any asset. So for example, you could have a character or a NPC that has this plant behavior that you can destroy and then place somewhere else on your map. Can you lower the music? Yes, I can. Thank you for saying something, V. Happy to do so. Have a good stream. Thank you very much. Glad to hear it stepping high. So what we'll see is when we interact with this number pad, that it will destroy all of this grass based on sending out a message, and the grass is then receiving the message. And we'll take a look at that. So let's go ahead and just stop right here and look at these two behaviors. So the first thing we'll look at is this tree. The tree had a replace asset. So we can see that it's being replaced by a blue ruined car, and that car has collisions. We could totally make it a pushable car, like we can interact with it. This is part of the physics that comes with Sandbox. You can create assets that can be passed through, like they're kind of almost ghosts in a way. Like you could make like a false wall as an example of using no collisions in your physics, Or by default, it's set to collision. So an asset that can't be pushed, you can't go through it, but you can hop on it and you can hop over it, around it. Or the last option is to have that same collisions, but instead of the object being permanent or stagnant, can't be moved, by giving it collisions and gravity, you can then push it around because the character is then kind of the force that it's waiting on. It will also interact with anything else in the environment. Let's just say you had a character or creature that was moving around. It too would be able to push this asset as long as the physics were set to collisions and gravity. So we'll just take a look at what that does after we walk through our example. And then lastly, the message that they are waiting for was replace asset. So this is very specific in the sense of spelling and capitalization. So this message needs to be typed exactly. So replace, capital R, asset, capital A. It needs to be exact in order for this tree to be turned into a car. So we can take a look at our number pad, which does not seem to have any logic attached to it. So if we look at the logic, this number pad actually doesn't do anything. Squeeze me? Oh, there's two number pads. Why would they do this? What treachery is this? Wait, why did they put two number pads? That's kind of weird. Anyway, so this number pad is... Oh, I see what they did. They basically destroyed the previous number pad, the one that had all the information on it, so you wouldn't interact with it a second time. It's a trap, says Lorcan Wolf. Yes. I mean, I was fooled. So what's happening is this secondary number pad. Is there three? Nope, only two. The second number pad is basically sending out this message, replace asset, and we can see that it has a capital R and a capital A, so that's very specific. You can only receive a message as long as it's exactly the same as what is intended, which we can see on our tree in the logic, replace asset. So it's capital R, capital A, replace asset. And so we can then just hop back into the game real quick. The other things you'll notice on this asset is an indicator which tells you, hey, we can interact with this object. And it also has replace asset lock. So this asset is going to be destroyed, if I'm guessing correctly. So as soon as we interacted with it, we can see that second number pad, the one that was below, was destroyed. Interesting how they set that up. And because we added gravity to this car, we can push it around. So that could be fun for, you know, many mechanics. We should be able to even jump on it. Yeah, so because it still has collisions, we don't fall through it. So we do want to look and see where that message is coming from, because now I'm curious. So when this message was sent out, replace asset, somewhere on our map, it's being destroyed, replaced by replace asset lock. So we'll keep an eye out for that. We might come back and see if we can find it. So again, like, we're interacting with this sign, and when we do so, this message is being received, replace asset lock, which destroys it so we don't interact with it a second time. And then they had this other number pad just to act as a kind of fake, so the player thinks, oh, it's still there, I can come back. So moving on, we'll now go to the plant behaviors and see how they interact. So behind the scenes, each one of these grass plants all have the plant behavior. Roxy asked, does something come to your mind so that the new asset can be replaced by another asset, like the different stages of a plant, from the seed until the plant grows and bears fruit? That's a great example, Roxy. I would say that with the replace asset, you are limited to A and B. So you're going to have to think of some new creative solutions to go from A to B to C. So for example, A will be replaced by B, but then if you want to go to like the third stage of a plant, you'll need to then destroy B and spawn C, if you catch my meaning. But I think that's a great example, is having a seed that when you put it in the ground creates like a sprout. And then after you bring water or some sort of nutrient to this plant, that triggers the message that would cause the plant to bloom. I think that's a good idea with, simple plants. If you wanted to make something more complex, is what I'm saying, you'll need to add more behaviors. So if you're just doing a seeding into like a flower, I think this is the perfect solution, is using the place asset. So with these grass plants, you can see that they all have a plant behavior and that they are waiting for this particular message, plant. And we can see the capitalization, so capital P, plant. They're waiting for that message to be destroyed. Another thing to note is that if we were to put like a squirrel inside of this space, and we give it a prey behavior, he's going to walk around eating plants. So all of these should by default have the plant's behavior. So we can watch the squirrel more or less walk around and eat any of the grass that he chooses. Otherwise, we have our number pad here that when we interact with it, it is sending out the message plant. And so as we saw, each of these grass has that plant behavior, and they're waiting for the plant message in order to be destroyed. Let's just load in, and we can watch our squirrel will likely just roam around. He'll stop at the grass, and he'll pretend to eat it. I'm curious if he'll actually destroy any of them. So he does stop to eat them, but it doesn't look like he consumes them. So that's important to note. That's a nice idle behavior too. So the squirrel and the prey behavior there. And he's immune to me. He's an invincible squirrel. Who would win in a fight? 1,000 squirrels or me? That's rhetorical. We all know it'd be the squirrels. But we can destroy all our plants just by interacting with that button. And we can see that second number pad was also removed. I'm still curious as to where that second number pad is getting this message. So this one also had the plant lock. You can also destroy plants from multiple messages. So you can see I added a secondary message if we wanted to. But plants' behaviors are very useful for destroying any asset. It doesn't have to be just a plant. Hi, Princess EO. Welcome in. How are you? Good day. Good day, Princess. All right. Let's go to the next two behaviors. Maybe we'll do 3. So now we're taking a closer look at the prey behavior. So the prey behavior allows assets to interact with any assets as plant and set with a plant behavior. Interact with the number pad to toggle the behavior on and notice the deer eating grass. So now the deer will walk around, and this time the deer is actually consuming the grass. So we'll take a closer look at that behind the scenes. Also, prey behavior allows assets to flee specified tags. So now we can spawn some wolves here. So wolves have just spawned from underground, as wolves do. And the deer is very scared. That poor deer. Oh dear, oh dear. So if we look underground here, we can see some of the behind the scenes logic. Interesting. Am I looking in the right one? No, I wasn't. So we have wolves that are on platform behaviors, but they have the specific wolf tag. So we're going to talk about basic platforms when we get to that section. All you need to know is that they're moving up, and our deer is currently scared of them. So the deer flees from any wolves. So for this example, the wolves were appearing and the deer was running away from them. We can now see that as a prey, he is going to be eating our grass here. The grass actually has a kill tag. So this might be important to note for our squirrel over here. So if we were to swap out this message, because I had placed squirrel with, instead of the plant message, we can see the squirrel actually ate that grass, specifically because it had a kill message. So that's like a me discovery. You guys just get bonus discovery. I didn't think that was how it worked. But more or less, the squirrel will only eat this particular grass because it's killable. The other grass is just waiting for a very specific message. So the squirrel was able to kill that particular grass because it had a kill message on it. So we can probably watch him do it again. I think he has to get close. Squirrel's not hungry. So let's now look at the predator behaviors. He's a cowbot. I'm a cowbot with how much I eat. The predator behavior allows assets to attack assets with prey behavior. So now we can see when we interact with this number pad that it will toggle on and notice the wolf attack the deer. That would be a good name for Moobot. So we can see the wolf now attacks any asset within its range. So this is what's called the predator behavior. So the wolf is hungry. And we all know wolves are not vegans. Oh dear. So if we take a look behind the scenes, the first thing we'll notice is our number pad here is sending out a message. That message is predator. So capital P predator. We can see on our wolf that he is waiting for that message to turn on his behavior. So we're going to talk about components in length, likely at the end of this week. But the predator behavior causes the wolf to run around and attack anything that it deems as prey. So we can see that the tags it will attack are the prey and the avatar. So by removing avatar, for example, he won't attack me like he did before. So by clicking the number pad, it turns on the predator behavior and he won't attack me. He's like, bro, stop. I was a joke, bro, it was a joke. Stop. Okay, moving on. So over here, we're going to be introduced to a new mechanic. This mechanic is called the multi behavior. So the multi behavior allows blocks to be spawned in a specified area. So when we interact with this number pad, this behavior is going to spawn blocks. And so this could be fun for creating a parkour type of setting. It is worth noting that the smallest space you can make is 3 by 3. So let's just take a look at it behind the scenes. Excuse me. Our number pad, when we interact with it, it's sending out the message multi. So multi is the code word here. And so that multi is being received by our 3 invisible assets here, these number pads. And so once it receives that message, whoops, it's going to spawn the 3 blocks. So we'll take one more look here. So the edit logic, we can see that when it receives the multi-message, it's spawning brown bricks inside of a 1 by 1 by 1 area. So we can see by the game's logic, a 1 by 1 area is roughly 3 blocks by 3 blocks, and then height 3 blocks. So you're looking at how many blocks is that? That's like 9, 18, 27? Is that exactly 27 blocks? I can math. So that big bundle of blocks there, that's the minimum. So we can position it in a way that makes sense. We could also increase that spawn area. So this one, for example, had 2 of the size tall. So 2y is the height. So just as a crash course, x is your left to right axis, so the x-axis. The y-axis is your up to down, and then the z or z-axis is your front to back. And so we can see here, if I wanted to, on the z-axis, which is this blue arrow, if I wanted more blocks, I can increase it by 2. And then this one over here, I think it's too tall, so I'm actually going to put it in the ground a little bit, and then maybe even reduce. We actually can't go under 1, so I'm typing in 0, typing in 0.5. Nope, the minimum is 1. But we can see that I was able to at least put it in the ground to where it feels as though it's just a kind of like a jump pad. So it's very useful for like creating a jump puzzle of sorts. Okay, moving on. We have door behaviors. Let's take a look. And if anybody has questions, especially about any behaviors you're seeing on screen, please feel free to ask questions. Thank you, Roxy, for yours. But yeah, we're just going to walk through them, introducing you guys to behaviors. So a door behavior allows assets to act like doors when receiving a message. If you interact with this number pad, it's going to open the first door, and the second door will rotate. So these are the 2 ways to open up a door. You can either A, like this door, use an animation, which allows you to pass through it. I often use this behavior for even more complicated things. We can take a look at it in the logic. And then this one will turn on a pivot. So not all doors need this frame, for example. Like this example had used the frame on a door, but there are doors that don't have frames. So this big kind of brown border around it. It's also worth noting that when a door is open, it is non-collidable, regardless of what the asset is. So even though this is still a door, because we've opened it, it is kind of translucent. We can pass through it. It's like a ghost. But when the door is closed, we cannot go through it. Anti-NFT policy Minecraft is announced. I have no idea. But Bjorn, I would like to look into that. Maybe I'll look into it off stream. That's interesting. So we're taking a look now at the door behavior. We can see that it's using an animation when we open it, and there's an animation when we close it. And there is a starting state. So you can have the door start as open. Either one will work. As we saw, when a door is open, it is non-collidable, so we can pass right through it. And it's worth noting that our door is opening on a very specific message. We could also add an interaction. So this is a default message that the player can do with any asset. If you add an interact message to any asset, it is waiting for the player to click on it, so touching it. And that will cause the asset to do whatever you have programmed. So in this case, the door will open if we touch it. Let's take a look at it. So we can see I changed the opening state to our door, which makes it non-collidable. And when I click this button, it closes the door. This one had rotated on its pivot. However, this door is now closed, but I can interact with it to open it. So by pressing E on the keyboard, I can do the same thing as that button was doing. This one, on the other hand, is not programmed for that, because we had added that interact button. Roxy says it'd be like an animation and collision switch. Yes, exactly. So yeah, Roxy, I often use door behaviors as a way to swap between animations. So as an example, this is something I do quite often in my games, is I will add an NPC. We like Mary. Mary's nice. So with Mary, I'm going to remove her citizen behavior and instead give her the door behavior. So Mary isn't a door. She is adorable, but that's not my point. So what we'll do is we're going to have it to where when we interact with Mary, she will perform in this animation. As we said, with the door behavior, it has an animation. When it opens and closes, it's playing an animation. So what we can do with Mary is we can use that door message as well as an interact message to play one of her animations. So we can see Mary has a whole list of animations. We'll have her talk and we'll have her jump. So the last thing we'll note after we test this is that she too will be non-collidable. So as in we can walk through her. And if you're using a door behavior on a character such as Mary, we can see that her body just kind of stops having this idle breath to it. So a door behavior, as you might have guessed, is kind of intentionally static. So it ends on that last frame of Mary's animation. Same with this jump animation. So that's the last frame of her jump animation. But if you're creative, you can cause some cool effects, like when she's talking to us, for example, she will do the talking animation, and then maybe she'll like send out like an attack because she's so angry at us. But it's a unique way of having a character talk to you, and I use it in a lot of my games, is so that when you interact with the character, they do a talking animation. And then when they stop talking and you finish your conversation with them, maybe they go back to like an idle kind of stance. The one thing that we should note is when we were talking with Mary, she was a ghost. You know, we could walk through her. So what we'll do is we'll place a small object with very few frames. This asset is one of my favorites for this case or example, is a lamp. So what we can do is we can turn the lamp invisible by toggling the visibility and then place it basically where Mary is standing. So now, if I interact with Mary, there will always be something for me to collide with. So I can't walk through her. I can't push Mary around. Moving on. Next up, we have the farmer behavior. So a farmer behavior allows assets to gather with a specified tag. So when we interact with this, we'll notice the bazaar merchant is going to harvest some grass. So he'll walk around, and when he gets close to the grass, he'll pick it up, destroying the grass. There he goes. And when we interact or attack him, he's going to start fleeing. So he's scared of the wolf. So if we were to take a look behind the scenes, we can see that he, as a farmer, is wandering inside of this blue radius, which is 5 left and right blocks, 1 up and down blocks, and 5 forward blocks. He's looking for plants, so anything with this tag, plant, and he's walking at a rate of 1.5. We can reduce this just to watch him walk slower. And we can adjust whether or not he flees. So if he runs away, or if he runs away when attacked. So let's just turn those off just to see what happens. And we can adjust the gathering speed if we don't want him to gather too quickly. Lastly, we can see that we can turn on this behavior based on a message. So that's where this number pad comes into play. So when we are kind of walking through this series of, examples, we're interacting with a number pad, which is then turning on the example. So when we interact with the number pad, as we can see here on the speaker component, we interact and it spits out the farmer message. And so there were two different messages. One was to spawn our wolf. So the asset spawner here is spawning a wolf on farmer 2. And then our first number pad on the left here, when we interacted with it, was telling our farmer to start farming. Start farming, darn it. And so we can see how that will interact now that our farmer will not only walk slower, he'll gather slower, and he's not going to run from the wolf. So these are the types of settings that we can adjust. So now he's walking around super slow, and he'll eventually go and pick up grass. But he's not scared of no wolf. This wolf is getting a free meal. Nibbling on them haunches. And then he'll stop at the grass eventually. The wolf is like, oh man, he's boring. So the wolf's no longer attacking him. Moving on. We have the healer. So the healer behavior allows an asset to heal you. So if we interact with this number pad here, it's going to deal damage to the hermit. And then the healer, this woman here, will chase him and restore his health. Can we kill the hermit? For science! For science! Can you bring him back from the dead, lady? What good are you? Well, at least you tried. So if we take a look, we can see our hermit is more or less just a citizen. He's just walking around, he has health. He does have a specific tag. So tags are something we'll learn more about on our screen, or stream. I'm trying to zoom in, it's not letting me zoom. And so our citizen kind of roams around, but he has a health component, so he receives damage. And our healer is specifically looking for him, so he's looking, or this woman is looking for healer target. So when an asset with this specific tag has received damage, our healer, so long as they are within the green circle here, will run up to them and begin to heal them. It's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of times this will be used for allies. I've seen many people use this asset called a healing rune that they'll place inside their games. And this healing rune will generally be set to no walking speed, so it won't move at all. But will still heal the player when it can. What's ironic is Joseph and Conrad will often say, oh, I don't like being healed 5, per second. Unfortunately, the default healing behavior is only 5. However, you can fake this by placing a more advanced asset called a message broadcaster. So we'll take a look at that. We'll actually come back to it because I believe that example is coming up soon. So yes, so we will revisit this healing rune in a moment. So I think we will continue until today's session, until we get to the broadcaster, and then we'll experiment a little bit more. And then next week, we'll do the back row. It looks as though there are about a half dozen left. So next up is our melee enemies. You can't just stack healers. You totally could. I think that's a great solution. So for this particular healing rune, we're limited to only 5 per value. But as you're saying, we could totally stack it. So that is one solution. The only problem that is foreseeable is if you're stacking this particular asset. Let's just say you had a bunch of duplicates of this rune. That's not good for optimization. Instead, you would more or less fake it. So we would hide like a very small asset, such as this lamp, that when we place another healer on it and we remove the walking speed, this is the one we would duplicate. So I believe that's a good point, Yarnican, as to where we can essentially fake it by having multiple or duplicates. But we'll revisit that because there is a way to not only heal using a message broadcaster, but also deal damage. And with the message broadcaster, you can heal as much as you want. You're not limited by the asset. So just as a brief note, this asset has 0 magic. So this is a common asset, so it doesn't have any stats or attributes. So power, defense, speed, magic, and luck. These attributes we will revisit another day. However, I actually have a tutorial on this on my other account, so we can maybe visit that. So this healer can only heal a maximum of 5. There are assets, and we can see this icon, what is linked to the heal value is magic. So any asset that would have, more than 0 magic is going to heal for much, much more. But again, I think at the end of the day, you're going to be faking a lot of these things behind the scenes. So having a duplicate, another healer, is a great suggestion. Moving on, we have the melee enemies. So a melee enemy behavior would give fighting abilities to any assets. So we can see what will happen if we turn on these enemies. They're going to fight Jet here. Jet is not going to protect himself. And he's running. But he's not like actually running. What's going on, Jet? So apparently, Jet is a platform here. And so he is toggling and running back and forth on an 8-second timer. So an interesting example, to say the least. So if we were to reduce the delay, we can still see that he too is having a behavior, in this case the platform behavior, which we'll get to maybe in the next session. But we'll see that this platform is being turned on by this toggle behavior component. So all of our enemies here are also having their behavior, which is called a melee enemy, is also being turned on by that same message. That message comes from when we interact with this number pad. So we can see interaction with the number pad spits out melee enemy message. And so, as a recap, it's turning on all of our behaviors, because otherwise these assets are just standing still. They're not really doing anything. But when we interact with the number pad, everything turns on. And so a melee enemy in essence is just running around attacking anything that it deems as hostile. So for example, Adventurer Jet here, we see he has a dummy message. So if we were to look at one of our skeletons, the only target that they want to attack is a dummy. If I were to change this, so by default the player has avatar, that skeleton doesn't care. He's like, oh, he's just a dummy. But then if I get in, he's like, oh, the avatar's here. Yeah, I'm the avatar. I'm the last airbender. What's up? 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 Get wrecked. One thing you can also do with your character is you can go into the parameters and add a tag. So this specific tag situation, I can add dummy. And so all of these skeletons will now attack me as well as Jet. There we go. So look at me, I'm a dummy. Poor Jet. So that's the melee enemy. So more or less just the bulk of your antagonists or characters that will fight the avatar, they use the melee enemy as a way to be aggressive. Be aggressive. Jeez. So now we have our message broadcaster. So a message broadcaster behavior allows us to send messages. It works almost like the button behavior, but it has more settings. So let's see what happens when we interact with this number pad. So it appears as though it's sending out a message to spawn a box. I don't think that's a great example, because we have an asset spawner behavior as well as others. But let's just take a look at the logic that they've given us. So wait. Interesting. So their example is the number pad itself, not the box. So if we take a look at the number pad itself, it's sending a message, the message being interact. So when we interact, with this number pad, it's sending a message. That message is message broadcaster. It's being sent specifically to our wooden box. So this wooden box is receiving the message broadcaster message. They really complicated this. I think this is probably the most confusing of all their examples. So I'm going to give you more examples, and this is going to be our final lesson for today. And I would love to hear some questions. Garnican, thank you so much for stopping in. Have yourself a nice day. Roxy says, with gems and catalysts, it regenerates much faster. That's a good point. Gem class would be good. Geology. Yeah, we could get in some geology. But I think next class, I will start with gems. I think gems are an important thing to know about. And in my recent game, I had a brief kind of tutorial. So I'll log in and I'll start us off there. So with the message broadcaster, we can see that this asset spawner is receiving that message, thus causing a box to spawn. So there are more things that we can do with a message broadcaster. So we're going to take a look. The first thing is I will be using this lamp to serve as a message broadcaster. So we're going to add, to add any behaviors, you'll go into the behavior section and you can click none. And now you'll have this entire list of more than half of the behaviors we've already discussed and learned a little bit about. But we have the message broadcaster behavior. And so let's take a look at the logic behind it. First, we can hide the visibility. So several behaviors have this toggle. A couple include message broadcasters, multis. So multi was that asset that spawned blocks. There's the opposite of a multi, which is called a void. So a void, you can also toggle the visibility, and that removes blocks. And then there's the message broadcaster and the asset spawner. So those you can toggle the visibility. Just a brief note. So when we use a message broadcaster, we're generally sending out a message. So for this example that we're using, we're going to have Adventurer Jet. And Jet is going to have a specific tag. We'll do capitalized J, E-T. So it's important to note that I said capitalized J because it is case sensitive depending on your tags. So if we now go back to our message broadcaster, we can see that there is a broadcast type section, I want it to deal damage to a specific tag. So we can see Jet is currently in that range. We'll increase the range just so we can make sure that, let's say Jet was to walk to one of those corners. And now we'll add that capital J ET Jet tag. So what do we want to do? Well, we're going to require that same message broadcaster. So capital M message, capital B broadcaster. When that message is received, so as we saw, this number pad, when we interact with it, it's going to be sending out the message broadcaster message. And we can click it as many times as we want, so there's no limit. What we're going to do then is cause Jet to receive a message. And so the message that we want Jet to receive is damage. So I did do it a little bit backwards here, so let's rewind. I'm going to require the specific message to be message broadcaster. So this is the message that's going to be received by our lamp. So we click the number pad. The lamp is like, oh, the player has clicked that number pad. So now we can see that the message required has been received. We can then send a message to Jet. So Jet will receive damage. So this is a functionality of message broadcasters specifically. I've tried this with other messages, but this one seems to be the most consistent. Is you can deal damage and you can heal a target when you interact using message broadcasters. So we can deal, let's say, 50 points of damage. I don't know how much health Jet has, so I'll start small. We'll do damage semicolon 25. And so capital D damage semicolon 25. And so what's going to happen is when we interact with this number pad, it's going to send a message to our broadcaster, which then broadcasts to anything with the tag Jet, capital J-E-T. Any Jets are going to receive 25 points of damage. So as an example, we could also make this sign have 25 points of health, and his name will also be Jet, or tag, I should say. His tag will also be Jet. So now we can see that in real time. Also, it's still going to spawn the box from the sky. So it does appear that I've missed something. So we'll take a look here behind the scenes. So my number pad is sending out a message, but it's only sending it to specific actors. So we need to add Jet as an actor. And the sign as an actor. So using a message broadcaster to send a message to a message broadcaster to then send the message to Jet, I think is where we're going wrong. So I'm going to remove the message broadcaster from our number pad and instead make it a speaker component to where when we interact with this number pad, it's starting the chain. I had two message broadcasters trying to talk to each other. I think that's where it went wrong. And we'll increase the delay here. So now we're dealing damage. We saw that our sign had dealt damage, and Jet here actually does not have a health component on him. So that's part of the problem. But we'll recap this. So we're interacting with the number pad. It's still spawning the box, but now it's also dealing damage to Jet and to the sign. Man, that just feels like torture. Oh, Bajorn, everything makes sense now. We were not allowed to use custom assets, and TSG planned to release their own. Oh yeah, I heard about that. Regardless, SandStorm has been putting out contests, and this was their first. So this game jam contest, I hope went well. I think a lot of people were able to explore the game maker thanks to Sandstorm for giving them an opportunity. I hope Sandstorm does choose to do more game jam chances. It was unfortunate the timing. I know that like 3 game jams were going on at the same time. And Roxy does point out that the lamp itself is an actor. So we do want to make sure that, oh, I see what you're saying, Roxy, because I did turn off the message broadcaster. I see exactly what you're saying, Roxy. Yeah, we can actually test that, Roxy. That's a good suggestion. So I'll put the message broadcaster back onto this number pad. And so this time, it's still sending out that message. And it's going to specific actors. So as Roxy said, our lamp, which it's the last lamp I added, so that's why I picked the 4th one, as well as our box. Looks like it's this one. And so it's waiting for us to interact. And then the lamp needs to also receive message message broadcaster message. So let's see if this does the same effect. It does! So even though we had multiple message broadcasters, they could still communicate with each other. And so Roxy, bonus points for you for that one. It's Oscam's. It's his hair's fault. Oh, I get you, Bjorn. So, the important takeaway here, which was not an example they provided, is that you can deal damage using message broadcasters, but you can also heal using a message broadcaster. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, and that'll be our last example for today. So if we wanted to heal the player, we're going to send out a heal message. So when we talk to this number pad, it's sending out the message heal. Yeah, Roxy. I think at some point you just got to simplify things. That's something I struggle with a lot as a game developer. It's like, oh, I'll just add another step. Oh, I'll just add another thing. But at the end of the day, the more simple your mechanics are, the easier it communicates. And we don't want there to be hiccups. In some of the games I've published, I still have had bugs happen because one piece of the puzzle just got skipped for whatever reason. So the next thing we're going to try is having a healer. So it's going to be healing. So instead of damage semicolon 25, we're going to do heal semicolon 25. And that is going to heal Jet, but it's waiting now for the heal message. So let's see. Everything should work as is because we're using tags rather than selected actors. So we can deal damage. So Jet, he's now looking a little sick, but I can heal him using this button. So we can deal damage to him and just torture him for the rest of his life. How do you like it now, Jet? Should I end your suffering? Or do you want to keep your toes? Alright, he's dead. Rest in peepses. Rest in pepperonis. So, thank you everybody for watching. We're going to be wrapping up today's stream. Are there any questions? We've gone through more than half of the behaviors. So our next session will be Friday. And we're going to be starting a little bit earlier than normal. So our Friday session, I asked if we could start it at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that is 3 hours before now. So if you would like to be there Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be talking about gems, catalysts, behaviors. So the rest of the behaviors you see here on screen. And we're going to finish that stream with components. So a lot to cover, but a lot of these I think we can manage in the hour. So yes, thank you everybody for watching. Is there anyone currently streaming that we can raid? Oh, Sandbox Game is live. Let's go hop over into their stream. Make sure you guys show your support. Tell them that Sandstorm sent you. Yeah, Slater Raid. Maybe we should talk about timing. I think they started late. I'm not gonna lie. I think this is late for them. Usually, we're a little bit lower or later. So I think they generally start Wednesdays and Saturdays at like 2 p.m. So this is on average. This is not average. But yeah, tell them Sandstorm sent you. And thanks everybody for watching. We'll get that raid started. Have yourself a fantastic Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you learned something. Feel free to ask any questions. All questions are welcome. Thank you, Chihiro. Appreciate you. Roxy, I greatly appreciate all your questions. See you later, Vivox. Bajorn, much love. Thank you, Slater Raid, for helping. Hi, Princess EO. Bye, Princess EO. See you later. Alex is back. I think so too, Roxy. All right, thanks everybody. I'm gonna start off the raid now. Boop. Thanks, Lord Can Wolf. To Chad. Takes a Chad to know a Chad, Lord Can Wolf. Okay, see ya.